Tucker is opinion and commentary, not news. There's a difference. Okay, so here's the problem. You are on a channel called Fox News. When you're on a channel called Fox News, everything that you're doing comes with the idea that it is news, that it is informative. So sure, for legal defense purposes, Tucker and probably Hannity and many others are all giving themselves the out that this is opinion and commentary, not news. But that commentary is how people are getting their ideas of what's going on throughout the day, what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country. Welcome. It is a day, isn't it, my dudes? Today is November 25th, 2020, the day before Thanksgiving. Not that many Thanksgivings will be had, but nonetheless, the drama of the politosphere within Twitch, Twitter, and the rest of the internet continues. Today, we're going to go over the video I made and posted to Tim Pool's subreddit. Generated not many upvotes, but a fuck ton of comments, and we're going to talk about those. Okay, so the long story short, made the video, called out a bunch of stuff from an image that went really far on that subreddit. I think that thing had like 200 upvotes on the sub, and it's not a super active sub, so that's quite a bit. So then, this video gets there. It makes it to the front page pretty quickly, which is the only reason I think it survived the day. But of course, because of what this subreddit is, and two is in the subreddit, the comments are the real juicy area. So let's go ahead and let's look down these comments and let's check it out. So first one says, clearly you put a lot of work into this and I respect that, but your very first source is from CNN. That may have been a fatal error for getting anyone to read further. So the idea that CNN is a bad source in any sense of the term bad source is pretty absurd. Has CNN ever made a mistake? Sure. But you know what? CNN, the New York Times, maybe even Fox News to some degree, are media institutions that will, when necessary, when pressed on it, make corrections. Now, New York Times, CNN, way more than something like Fox News. But it's very strange that the small percentage that goes to the more extreme sources like Newsmax or OAN, those people are going to have a different sense of reality compared to everyone else. And I genuinely believe that there are people who feel that they're getting the truth, right? They're listening to Alex Jones and Tim Pool and whoever else, Dave Rubin, and they're getting the side that no one else is really willing to talk about. And that's the first hurdle here. So a flaw in my part, something that I screwed up, was coming into this scenario and thinking, okay, I'm just going to show source, things like the New York Times, Associated Press, Reuters, etc. I did leave a Snopes in there to screw with some people because a lot of folks will get real angry because Snopes still does a really good job of fact-checking, but they've been fact-checking more and more against the right because the right's been coming out with more and more crazy shit. So people have just assumed, hey, yeah, this is fake news and Snopes sucks. So that was to piss people off. So let's see. Some people were willing to kind of call that out, like this person here. Pretty much it. But what you see is a really disproportionate reaction, right? From the first time, people are reacting like to this. For like, oh, you called out CNN. That might have been a fatal flaw in getting anyone to read further. And people are all like, oh, fuck yeah, I agree with this. And someone else comes and says, if your source is, oh wait, is this agreeing with that? Yeah. So this person says, you can only lie to my face so many times before I just give up and listen. I would love, and in fact, let's see if someone asks for it, because I would love to hear a lie that CNN told that you're like, I'm all out of credibility, unless, of course, you're a conservative. Because when I was a conservative, I didn't believe anything from MSNBC, and I always believed that CNN had a deep slant against the right. Let's see what these downvoted comments say. Quotes it, the clearly you put in a lot of effort, blah, 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 because Trump convinced his followers CNN is Lugenpress. What's this video? Oh, am I going to regret this? New survey proves media lies and censorship stole Trump's re-election victory. It's a Tim Pool video. I have not watched a lot of Tim Pool videos. I consume a lot of his content online, and this is one of the dumbest ways to start a video, and shows that how he cultivates this idea of people being fucked up, people being the media, how the media is fucked up and working against you. The idea that the institutional media, like the New York Times, I'll lean on the New York Times a lot, but New York Times, Washington Post, whatever. The idea that these people are working against the people is absurd. Let's just take the election fraud discussion itself. The idea that these organizations wouldn't love some big juicy bone, whether it's from Hunter Biden's laptop or whether it's from, a state that is actually covering up some sort of serious malfeasance when it comes to voter handling, administration of the election in their state. They would love that. Oh my God. We talked about this the other day. Watergate, Snowden, Manning, Pentagon Papers, Iran-Contra scandal, all these different things came about with huge media support, right? They have a lot to gain. The Washington Post gained a lot from the Pentagon Papers. That was, by the way, there's a really good movie. I think it's called The Post. You should watch it. Very, very awesome account of those events. But so this starting sentence from Tim, let's hear that again. The many he's talking about are his viewers, and they have that belief because they either had it and came to him because he continues to say those words, or he helped them believe that. That's a problem. Are you guys not hearing the audio off the desktop anymore? Hold on.
They don't exist to tell you the truth. They just pump out propaganda and activist narratives. To clarify, there are many people who work in news media and local news who do a good job. I use mainstream news sources all the time. I just have to vet these articles. I can't just...
How is that good? Okay, cool. How's the ratio of Tim to me?
Pulp an article and assume
test.
So I try to find...
Just got to make sure it's not super out of sync because then my editor will have to do a little extra work, and I try to make it as easy as possible for her. Okay, so first of all, he's looking at the Washington Examiner, which is a newspaper that I don't know how old it is. Washington Examiner, Wikipedia. But I've seen a lot of dumb articles come from this. It seems like a tabloid, and it looks like it might actually be. Okay, so it's not a very old newspaper. Now, again, I've said this before. Your media organization doesn't have to be old in order to be trustworthy, because there are plenty of old media organizations that aren't terribly trustworthy. The Washington Post or the New York Post is a pretty good one. So he spins this narrative. We'll try to not focus on this too much because we want to talk about the subreddit, but he spins this narrative. I think we'll go over this video at the end. But what he just said here is important to the rest of the discussion, and that is that these people believe the media is bad, and Tim continues to drive that home. So again, I want to know what lies were told. No one replied to him and asked that question. But one of the downvoted comments, because Trump convinced his followers that CNN is Lujan Press, we'll watch this video that Mr. responded with and figure out what he's talking about. Someone else says, wow, there's a link to a website I don't like. So he's mocking him and quoting him. Gets downvoted for that, obviously. People aren't already going to enjoy the pushback, but then when you do it with sass, it makes it even easier for them to downvote you. And this one says, But it's CNN, the least credible source on the planet. And you're going to see everyone keep saying things like that, but never provide an example of how bad they are or why they're bad. The fact that you are stating that means you were brainwashed. I mean, yeah, to a degree, I think it does. I don't think that was a bad comment at all. Back in reality, Fox News' own lawyers argue that their viewers don't expect them to tell the truth because they aren't fucking news. Tucker is opinion and commentary, not news. There's a difference. Okay, so here's the problem. You are on a channel called Fox News. When you're on a channel called Fox News, everything that you're doing comes with the idea that it is news, that it is informative. So sure, for legal defense purposes, Tucker and probably Hannity and many others are all giving themselves the out that this is opinion and commentary, not news. But that commentary is how people are getting their ideas of what's going on throughout the day, what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country. Trivia time. Which logical fallacy is this? CNN is the least credible source on the planet, but Fox's own lawyers argued that their viewers know not to believe their reporting. Logical fallacy. LOL, it's not a whataboutism. I'm refuting your claim of CNN being the least credible source on the planet by showing you how even Fox's own lawyers think they're less credible than CNN and don't even qualify as news, but rather entertainment. You know that attacking the source of reporting instead of debating it on its merits is a logical fallacy, right? And that's what you and everyone else in this thread are doing in response to this video, claiming it's not true because of the source, avoiding talking about the claim itself, and asking for the moderators to ban anyone who disagrees with you, then crying logical fallacy. I think that's a pretty good assessment of what's going on in this thread. And let's follow it a little further. Okay, so I'm telling you, CNN is far less credible than Fox News. We are talking orders of magnitude. I will push back on that 100%. That is not true. Fox News is constantly spinning and using a very divisive bit of dishonesty and misrepresentation of fact. And that is causing issues where people believe that Fox News is telling the truth that no one else is telling. I grew up thinking that. I grew up thinking, wow, why is Fox News so honest compared to everyone else? And it's obviously a problem. Just like how when Tim makes a video about how bad the Democrats are using CNN as a source, you don't complain. You cry about logical fallacies, yet employ them exclusively in order to avoid addressing how you have no actual argument. Quote, the credentials fallacy is a logical fallacy that occurs when someone dismisses an argument and attacks its source directly by stating that the person who made the argument doesn't have sufficient credentials in the field being discussed. Would you trust a habitual liar? Would you loan them money? Like, these are just, no one engages with that. No one engages with the sources. No one engages with any actual information here. Let's see what else we have. Really? You'd rate it as least credible than Breitbart? Seriously? Less credible than Alex Jones. Like, this is a subreddit that views Alex Jones as a legitimate source of information, a purveyor of truth. People will bring up all kinds of things. The big one, especially if you're a Joe Rogan viewer that you've heard of, is the Bohemian Grove. Yes, Alex Jones did see them doing the cremation of care ceremony. But Alex Jones also tried to spin it into them doing satanic rituals, when it turns out that that ceremony and all their rituals and all of that society is actually pretty well known to the regular public. He might have brought it to a lot more eyes than people knew, but Bohemian Grove has been around for a long, long time. And there are pictures. Just today I saw some pictures from like the early 1900s of that ceremony. So Alex Jones didn't break ground except by showing that this happened to a bigger group of people that had no idea. And it's kind of crazy that some of like the most powerful men in the world are part of that organization. Sure. But that gets touted as Alex Jones being this super duper investigative reporter that pulls out the most crazy shit from society, and no one would know about it if it weren't for him. Can you name a single example of a time CNN told a story that was a lie or false that didn't get corrected? Here we go. So someone is questioning that. If you can't, then does that make you think, or do you just blindly say things like CNN is fake, LOL, without having any evidence? I think it's the latter. The Covington scandal. They eventually had to settle a lawsuit from one of the boys due to their inaccurate reporting. This occurred almost, maybe more than 2 years ago, and massive reparations were made. Is that the best you have? This is exactly like one of the main points, is that when one of these news organizations screw up, they have to account for it. They actually take responsibility. If OAN screwed up, if Newsmax screwed up, no heads are rolling. But CNN, maybe even Fox News, CNN, the New York Times, people get fired for misreporting. People get reassigned. Things happen. That shit doesn't happen anywhere else. Tim Pool isn't being held accountable for when he goes out and he tweets some bullshit. What's not true? Blue Jazz and Thorm. What isn't true? Now, I'm not familiar with the Covington scandal or anything, but I am familiar with the way that these journalistic outlets operate and the fact that they do have things that happen when shit goes bad. Blue Jazz. The fallacy occurs when the opponent dismisses the entire argument because of the source. Disputing sources is totally cool. I mean, but that's exactly what they're doing here. When someone says, clearly you put in a lot of work, and I respect that, but your very first source is CNN, that may have been a fatal error. Like, they are disputing everything because of the sources used. They're not no one is having a discussion really about the credibility of it until later down in the thread. And sure, they're saying lying, but then they don't really engage with anything except with this Covington thing is the only person that brought something up. Dude, OP asked for a single example of CNN lying, and I gave an example. If you insist, okay, so look. So before we even read that, so this person gives a thing. He does. He says the Covington scandal. They eventually had to settle a lawsuit from one of the boys due to their inaccurate reporting. Oh, Covington High School. That's the kid. Yeah. No, those kids did get screwed over. Like, the thing was very badly reported. But things happened for that. And so this person counters with this occurred how long ago, and reparations were made. That's a good point to make. Things happen for it. And so this guy says, dude, OP asked for a single example of CNN lying, and I gave an example. Sure, you did, but first of all, to put it as lying is different because we all had a different bit of information until more video and more context was given, right? So there was a lot of bad reporting on it. And this person pointed out that despite that happening, there were repercussions. And so this guy's going to continue, though, and say, if you insist on another example, CNN ran with the New York Times story of Russia paying Taliban to kill American soldiers. That was another lie. Was that a lie? I'm pretty sure. Let's see what it says. So he links two sources. So, false story about Russia. Let's check the CNN one. Russian offered bounties to Afghan militants to kill U.S. troops. Russian intelligence officers for the Military Intelligence GRU recently offered money to Taliban militants in Afghanistan as rewards they killed U.S. or U.K. troops. Let's just go ahead and let's do the little fact-checking thing. Let's see. Russian bounties on U.S. troops. Fact check. The top U.S. commander in Afghanistan says in a new interview that he has not seen evidence to corroborate claims that Russian officials place bounties on U.S. troops stationed in the Middle East. Speaking with NBC News, General Frank McKenzie said that reports in the New York Times and other media outlets indicating that U.S. intelligence officials were investigating reports that Russia was offering bounties to Taliban fighters for targeting U.S. service members had not been corroborated by evidence he had seen personally. It just has not been proved to a level of certainty that satisfies me, General McKenzie told NBC News, adding, we continue to look for that evidence. I just haven't seen it yet. But it's not a closed issue. Okay, so this is just saying that he hasn't seen evidence of it. But, I mean, these are coming from intelligence reports. U.S. official says intel on Russian bounties was less than conclusive. That misses the big picture. So what's this guy saying about this? Here is the link to the false story about Russian. I posted another link that talks about the story was not conclusive, and yet journalists ran with it. Well, let's see what the point of this article is. Let's see where this guy's mindset is. But the debate over that narrow issue obscures a larger consensus. U.S. intel agencies have long assessed that Russia backs our enemies in Afghanistan. A growing chorus of American officials have said in recent days that the intelligence suggesting Russians paid bounties to induce the Taliban to kill American service members in Afghanistan is less than conclusive. But the debate about that narrow and contested issue distracts from a larger, often overlooked consensus. Current and former military and intelligence officials say U.S. intelligence agencies have assessed for years that Vladimir Putin's Russia is supporting America's enemies in Afghanistan with cash and weapons. And President Donald Trump has said nothing publicly about it, even as he has pursued warmer relations with Putin and Russia, including ordering his intelligence agencies to cooperate with Russia in the Middle East. We should always remember the Russians are not our friends. General Kenneth McKenzie, who I think we were just reading about in the other article, commander of the U.S. Central Command, told reporters last week, and they are not our friends in Afghanistan, and they do not wish us well. If Trump agrees, he has not said so. Instead, he has praised Putin and called for Russia to rejoin the group of G7 nations from which it was ousted over its seizure of Crimea from Ukraine. The issue of Russia's alleged support for killing Americans is certain to come up Thursday as Defense Secretary Mark Esper and Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley appear before the House and Armed Services Committee for a hearing on the military's role in civilian law enforcement. Imagine you are risking your life in Afghanistan, and the Russians are trying to get you killed, said Douglas London, a former CIA officer who worked the Afghan issue. The president knows, but rather than doing anything, he directs intelligence agencies to cooperate with the Russians on counterterrorism. London was referring to an episode at the beginning of the Trump administration when he and others say the CIA was instructed to work with Russian intelligence agencies to fight terrorists. That effort never came to fruition, former officials say. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, in remarks to reporters Wednesday, rejected the idea that Trump ignored threats to American troops. He did not discuss Russian support for the Taliban. There's no higher priority for the U.S. and President than the safety and security of U.S. troops abroad, he said. And I don't think there is a president who has done more. Anyone who is targeting sailors, soldiers, Marines, we will take strong action. He cited the president's decision to order the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, whom the U.S. accused of helping kill American troops. American generals have warned that Russia has been helping the Taliban for several years. 3 retired generals who served in the chain of command over the war in Afghanistan told NBC News they saw indications Russia was supplying weapons, money, supplies, and on occasion, even transport to Taliban fighters as far back as 2016. The Taliban often received the weapons and support in northern Afghanistan, but by 2017, the Russian-supplied support was believed to be used by Taliban fighters as far south as Kandahar. In 2017, General Joseph Votel, commander of U.S. Central Command, said it was a possibility that Russia was arming the Taliban. By March 2018, General Nicholson, the commander of U.S. forces in Afghanistan, told the BBC the Russians were conducting exercises along the Afghanistan border with Tajikistan, blah, 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 blah. Okay, hold on. I don't want to read a fucking novel. These officials appeared to discuss Russia's general support for the Taliban. Before the president's meeting with Putin in June 2019, the military provided the White House with information about Russia's activities in Afghanistan, including that Russia was continuing to provide weapons and resources to the Taliban, as they have been for several years, according to 3 defense officials. The officials could not say whether that information got to Trump, but there have been plenty of public warnings in 2017. Like, it's been known that Russia fucking supports our enemies. In response, then Senator Bill Nelson, Democrat Florida, instructed Nicholson to inform the president that Russia had been cozying up to the Taliban. From an article in chat. Give me 1 second. A U.S. official previously told CNN that the intelligence assessment on the Russian bounty program was backed up by several pieces of information that supported the view that there was an effort by the Russian Military Intelligence Unit, the GRU, to pay bounties to kill the U.S. soldiers, including interrogation of Taliban detainees and electronic eavesdropping. So, looking at this article right here, I'm not seeing anything that supports what the guy said. And he pulls back from the part where this article fucking says whether or not Russian intelligence officers specifically offered bounties to Taliban fighters to kill Americans, Russian money and aid has facilitated Taliban operations against the United States. Like, so this is the problem here. Now, we saw in the other article, the gentleman, General McKenzie, I think that was his name. He said, "Hey, I haven't seen this, but that doesn't mean it happened." That kind of goes back to the whole Russian collusion thing, where the report said, "We have found no collusion, but not finding it doesn't mean there wasn't any," which was a way to leave it open to basically say, we definitely could have been. So these people only focus on the part that helps their argument. So he says, I also posted another link that talks about the story was not conclusive, and yet journalists ran with it. Now, granted, we skimmed and didn't finish the last part. I see nothing in here deriding the media for running with it at all. No. And this guy's missing the point of that article, which is, hey, whether or not it's actually happening, and though we have been told that it has by former officials and current intelligence officials, regardless, Russia's absolutely supporting our enemies. And that should be the takeaway. That should be the important part that you care about. So what's the response to this, dude? I don't think that the video link makes strong enough claims. Oh, okay, that first one was just a video. Strong enough claims to be considered fake news if you actually watch it. And the investigation is ongoing. But sure, that's a better example than the Covington stuff. Now you were just in denial. I gave you 2 examples now, and yet you still think that they were not fake news. Either own up to your mistakes or stop replying. I love the internet tough guy shit. Ha 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 ha. The second story isn't as strong as you think. It's not. It really isn't. So this is... We'll see what the continued thread is. How far... Oh, they went in. It's ongoing, just like the investigation into chemical weapons in Syria was. We found out it was a lie, as Assad never actually bombed Idlib with chemical weapons. For the ongoing investigation, it is now the end of November, and the article you linked dates to July, and yet nothing else was found. Even the top military brass in the U.S. had doubted the findings. Again, I didn't see anything that said doubted the findings. I just saw top brass saying we haven't seen it, but you have intelligence officials saying it's happening. So we can move on from this thread. What's this? The gray zone, the medium. Yeah. All right. Let's continue on, because we could do 2 hours of this shit. I'm trying to keep this video under an hour. We are way screwing that one up. Holy fuck, I have 151 people watching me. What the fuck are you guys doing with your lives? Okay, so let's check this next one. Oh, almost every single one of your sources here are biased. Let's go ahead and let's look at my history. The only time I'll ever show that on the web. Okay, so this is my original comment. And these are my sources, right? So for when you guys can know what I'm talking about when I refer to my sources, I went by topic, because if you've seen that image that's in the thumbnail, all these different things right here, I just went line by line, one by one. And so I made it nice and easy. Separated the sections and then left it. So our sources are things like CNN, USA Today, which by the way is a little right-leaning, if you didn't know, Reuters, some local news station, because this one was obscure enough that only a local station had actually covered it. WAPO, PolitiFact, New York Times. Yeah, pretty standard Associated Press. Pretty standard. Fact Check is not totally standard, but they source their shit. So yeah, I think we're using some pretty good sources. Well, Cow Concepts, I hope your COVID test comes back negative and that you can enjoy a healthy and safe Thanksgiving. So let's go next. Almost every single one of your sources here are biased. You really did nothing here except promote lies of the MSM. That's what Tim Pool does. That's what this subreddit's all about. I like the idiots here. I like that the idiots here can't actually refute any of the points he brought up and have to ad hom the sources instead, predictably. Maybe we, quote, regular people, are tired of arguing with lefties that no matter what, won't look at things from any other perspective than the one they've been told to hold. I am completely okay with looking at totally different perspectives. I'm A-okay with analyzing anything you put in front of me. But yeah, after a certain period of time, my mom sent me a Parler link this morning, and the Parler link went to an OAN clip, and I wanted to die. But I listened to it because I wasn't going to respond to her with just, it's fucking OAN, dog. I watched it, and then it was like that Byrne guy who is a conspiracy theorist. He was just on Alex Jones's show, and he's in this OAN clip making a bunch of techno-babble claims about things that aren't real and saying that the election is absolutely rigged. So, anyway. I forgot. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Maybe we regular people are tired of arguing with lefties that no matter what, look at anything from another perspective. The perspective they want you to look at it from is completely made up. It's fabricated. It's not real. It's not real because they're using these sources that don't care about facts. They just care about pandering to a certain niche, crazy conservatism. Gotta love the projection from the right, especially when you're living in your own reality and when you believe the election was stolen from Trump despite no evidence, which is, of course, the purpose of the video was to provide evidence of this statement, which, yes, nothing was stolen. This is one of my favorite things about Reddit, folks. They assume I'm on the right or Republican or part of a militia just because I don't agree with them. Same logic as calling people racists and Nazis if they don't agree with them. No, but it's pretty likely that you are a conservative or that you are some sort of internet crazy if you think that the mainstream media is actually lying to you. And this guy goes on to say pretty much the same thing. You pair right-wing conspiracy theories and value right-wing sources like the Epoch Times. So yeah, you're on the right. Pretty laughable that you're going to try to claim to be a centrist. Again, I like people like you who attack the left but are wrong about everything and can't actually argue and face with the facts. Completely agree with you, sir. Dark Avatar 21. I like this response. I'm glad we have, so the original response, almost every single one of your sources here are biased. This guy responds, I'm glad we have people like Tim who tell the truth about mainstream media by making videos talking exclusively about the news as reported by the mainstream media. Seriously, have you seen a single Tim Pool video? Tim doesn't ever do original reporting. He just reads the same things as OP, yet draws vastly different conclusions that always happen to be the type of thing Republicans would want to hear. It is a little strange, isn't it? It's a little weird that if you were to do, I think someone said that the YouTube or Twitter algorithm categorizes Tim Pool as conservative. I wish I could source that, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't have a source for that, but it wouldn't surprise me because if you see the responses to Tim Pool's tweets, they're conservatives. There are a lot of MAGA hats and pictures. There are a lot of Joe Biden, president-elect jokes in their Twitter handles. Nice, just to dismiss everything that goes against your narrative as fake news. How is that different from a cult? Can you go through at least a few claims and explain how they are false or biased instead of blanket dismissing everything? I think this is the thread that really was just make an eye roll. I don't need to do that. These publications have already ruined their own credibility. again, so to understand the gravity of that claim, he is saying the New York Times, CNN, Washington Post, Associated Press in particular, and Reuters are all just unverifiable pish-posh garbage, and anything from a different source that counteracts them is probably correct. If I could provide you examples of Tim Pool lying, misreporting things, or being comically wrong, would you consider him fake news with no credibility? No one engaged with that, of course. I'd like to know what sources you think are reliable. Do you think Newsmax is reliable? How about OAN? It's pretty proven these are hyper-partisan right-wing media. What about the BBC or Politico or Axios? These tend to be some very centrist news organizations that are very responsible in their reporting. No one wanted to engage with that one either. Very odd. Yeah, I can post this thread in the chat. Not a problem. 1 second. Just the unwillingness to actually engage with the subject. And I think we'll find one that came up today that was very good. Are you playing Diablo?
I am.
Sorry, I just looked over at my roommate and he's playing Diablo and he hasn't played it forever. Just curious, where do you get your information and news? What are the most credible publications to you? Not playing that game with you, bud. This is the one. This is the one that really got my fucking gears going. So dude says, all your sources are bullshit and you did nothing except promote mainstream media lies. Then someone else comes in and says, nice, just dismiss everything as fake news. Dude comes back and says, I don't need to do that. These publications have already ruined their credibility. Again, that major list of major mainstream media publications that has a very good track record of holding people accountable. In fact, actually, I was listening to Pod Save America because I'm a liberal and I have to. I was listening to Pod Save America and they said that like in 2009 or something like that, when CNN, I think CNN or New York Times implemented their fact-checking section or their correction section, the number of corrections they released went up by like 30% or some shit like that. Like it was a very large increase. So this dude just comes back and just says, I'm not playing that game, bud. People do this when they want to get out there and just say, no, fuck you. But then when they, biased sources. Sure, everyone has a degree of bias. CNN was trying very hard on election night to not show their excitement every time Joe Biden took a lead, right? But the reality is this. If you consume only Newsmax, Fox News, and OAN, your worldview is actually so warped that all those other sources seem like complete bullshit. You think you have the only real truth, or at least the best truth, or you think you're actually fact-checking and verifying the information of the mainstream media. And so when it confirms with the sources that you like, OAN, Newsmax, Fox News, when those others say this, you're like, see? These guys do objective reporting, but then when someone points out, yeah, you're saying this, what that small little niche in the news market says, while the mainstream is saying that, those don't compute, and you say, fake news. That is you living in an alternate reality. And for the most part, there isn't a mainstream news organization except Fox News that engages in that level of bad faith reporting. And then, of course, Fox News will say, well, we're just opinion, which is funny because every time Jon Stewart went on Fox News was also trying to hold him to the account of a news agency when Jon is like, I am a comedian first. LC Game says, at this point, I don't think it's even worth it to interact with these people. It doesn't matter what you show them. Nothing is going to change their minds. Really don't know what more we can do. Someone brought up a really good point and giving me some feedback on this, because one thing I do in the video, like for the most part, is I'm reading the sources. Like the way we were going through those articles before, I was reading them in order to not just say, hey, this isn't true. Like with the Glenn Beck video. With the Glenn Beck video, I said, hey, this isn't true. Excuse me. This isn't true. And then I had the sources. I didn't link them, though, in the comments or anything like that. And that was it. With this one, I wanted to actually read the article and go in so no one could just say, oh, you're lying, blah, blah, blah. Because if anyone who was willing to listen at that point would hear the context of all the information. Well, it didn't it didn't land well with a lot of these people, as you can see. So I think the next approach is to talk about why certain sources are better and come up with some good concrete examples, right? So instead of just attacking these points like this, I think I'm going to next dig into some actual articles from those sources and show how the reality exists elsewhere. In fact, that is an amazing idea for an article or for a video. All right. So anyway, back to this. So recapping that thread, dude says these sources suck. Other dude said, really, that's all you're going to say? This dude says, I don't need to say anything else. They've ruined their own credibility. Dude pushes back, and this dude just says, not going to play the game with you, bud. And this guy's like, if you don't engage with criticism, you can never be wrong. Genius. That's, I mean, yeah, that's really true. You're playing games. What sources and publications are reliable according to you? This guy responded with Happy Cake Day. Let me guess. Newsmax, OAN, Fox News, but only Hannity and Tucker, though what the fuck is up with him lately? And a plethora of online unbiased journalists like Tim Pool, the GOAT, Crowder, because he's so funny, and Ben Shapiro if you want a serious analytical big brain guy. Okay, that was a smart-ass comment. Good. Might as well just admit you're wrong, buddy. Yeah. Let's see what else we can farm from this subreddit. At what point can we call all these recent things on the sub a coordinated... Okay, so I actually engaged into this thread. This guy says, at what point can we call all these recent things on the sub a coordinated brigading campaign? Now, I don't know what other things they're referring to, but I don't think a video of counterpoints to a popular post on the subreddit is brigading. Now, I don't think people upvoting it is brigading, and I don't think that people engaging with it in the comments that disagree with the mainstream thought in this subreddit is brigading. The implication is fucking absurd. At what point can we call all these blah, blah, blah brigading? Not bashing the mods. I know it's hard to be fair and balanced, but I gotta wonder if they will eventually fall and a full-blown takeover will happen like in David Rubin subreddit. I don't know what that's about, but someone else is responding and jerking this off. I've noticed that every single right-leaning conservative pro-Trump sub has been under attack by brigaders. I think they're trying to push everyone out and demoralize them. I wonder if those people are just seeing an influx of, hey, the election was lost, please move on threads, and they're taking that as a takeover. Hey, your mom's friend, thanks for the sub. Sorry, I don't have my notifications turned on. I apologize, but thank you very much for the sub. And if someone hosted me earlier, I appreciate that too. I don't know if they did, but I noticed the viewers jumped up. So thank you very much. So, I mean, it's a day old thread, right? So there's really nothing you guys can do. It's well off the front page. So they shouldn't say that that's brigading if they have any common sense. But if you've dealt with Reddit moderators before, they don't. In fact, let's see if I got a response. Okay. So I got, can you guys see that right there? I want to save it. So I got banned from Hassan's subreddit. Here's what got me banned. I got banned from Hassan's subreddit from actually breaking TOS right now, and then there was some thing here, blah, blah, blah. Prohibited conduct, defame, harass, abuse, threaten, or defraud users of Twitch services or collect or attempt to collect personal information about users or third parties without consent. I don't remember exactly what that was, but my comment was, and this was all during the N-word arc, if I'm not mistaken, except he did none of those things maybe abuse because he fucking bodied a few partners by providing with evidence examples of their bad faith behavior, hypocrisy, and or idiocy. But to somehow pretend Destiny was doing anything other than a genuine, transparent rundown of events is fucking stupid. That's all I said. And then this other one is, imagine being so defensive of Hassan, whom I'm a fan of, and sub to, you troglodyte. That was a little milady to call him a troglodyte. That you can't look past your desire to dunk to see the validity in what I said. Oh, was that a response to the other one? Anyway, those are my only two comments, right? So it's been enough time, so I decided to message the moderators of Hassan, and I said hello, I respectfully request an unban from the sub. I was banned for giving a defense of Destiny. From looking at my history, these might be the only 2 comments I made in the subreddit. And then I linked the comments so that there was no question of what I'm talking about. Maybe it was the heat of the N-word anti-arc, and you guys were in hyper ban mode due to an influx of Destiny and LSF fans. Actual brigading. But now that time has passed, I am sure you can see I wasn't rabble-rousing or being a prick to the regulars, regardless of if you agree or disagree with what I said. So, with that, I ask to have my case reconsidered and my ban reversed. Best, Lycan. And the dude said, are you asking for your ban to be revoked because it was unjustified? Now, I could be misreading that, so let's give a few interpretations. Hey, are you asking for your ban to be revoked because it was unjustified? Or are you asking for your ban to be reversed because you think it was unjustified? There could be a couple interpretations. To which I replied, yes, obviously I think it was unjustified. I made 2 dissenting comments, and I wasn't an asshole about them. Didn't call anyone names, didn't lash out at the smartass responses, but I was banned for defending Destiny during that time frame. That's not a good reason to ban someone if you're a well-adjusted adult. But, hold on, I can be submissive and just say, no, sir, I just think enough time has passed, and I'm really sorry for my behavior. Your question makes me think you disagree with the former, and so the latter is the only way this ends with an unban. Haven't heard anything back yet, and I don't think I will. So the point with that is that moderators can be cunts. So this is the thread talking about brigading, and it's just these guys jerking off this idea that they're being invaded, and not seeing the funny thing, which is they talk about open ideas and open thought and questioning things and whatever. But if anyone questions the mainstream narrative in this thread or in this subreddit, they get real pissy, and you see the downvotes come out. Smartass comment. Taking at that guy, someone else saying there was no takeover, his fans turned on him. Again, people just downvote and don't engage. That's always bothered me. The Reddit downvote button has been supposed to be about this doesn't contribute. Instead, it's an I disagree button. Oh yeah, no. Bitstorm at that point with his response, the if you're a well-adjusted adult thing was to kind of make him have a moment of either anger or to maybe a self-reflection. I think it's 10% chance he self-reflects. I think it's 90%. I just don't give a fuck at that point. Same. I don't, because at the same time, I don't think my smart ass, I can be more submissive, and the pointing out, I think you want me to be submissive. I think those sealed my fate anyway. So fuck it. I had fun with it. And this person just says, you'd rather censor Lycan than address his remarks? And people are just like, no, fuck you. Bye. At what point do you people start acknowledging reality? Downvote for you. So you want censorship? That didn't take long. Downvotes for you. And then here's me with many downvotes. What? The upvoting of content that goes against the grain? There are a lot of people who don't agree with the themes that do well on the front page of it and get regularly buried with downvotes. People with dissenting opinions that seem to genuinely care about Tim and his content. And some random, not this person, but someone else called me the F slur. And then I asked, what is this? A Halo 2 lobby? Thank you, DGG commenter who inspired that comment. And then someone else made some jokes. So yeah, that's another. There are a few commenters here and maybe a few like original threads in here where people talk about brigading in the subreddit, and it's very weird that Tim Pool subreddit views it as brigading when it's just an opinion that goes a little against the grain. Totally unbiased sources here, there, matey. Like, are your sources not biased? Genuine question. That goes to whoever said, the few people that have brought that up in chat. Sources are biased. It's the degree to which. Dude, yes. Louis error is literally every argument just source is biased. Yes, for the most part. Yes. Sorry, Beagle wins. I like to credit people for stolen memes. It feels a little guilt, I feels a little guilty meme jacking and not saying, hey, yeah. If you've ever been in college, not you specifically, in general, and taken English 1, then you know the only unbiased sources are peer-reviewed papers. Even then, the people that wrote those articles have their own biases, so in reality, there are only biased, a bit less biased, only biased and a bit less biased sources. Exactly, yet people on the sub dismiss every source here because the sources are biased. Come on, that's an absolute cop-out, and it shows how afraid they are to engage in a real fact-based discussion. This is very true. My name is Larkin. Please subscribe to my channel, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I need your subs and I need your support so I can grow my shit bigger. Please, oh please, I don't need donations, just need your follows and adorations. Please, 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 like, subscribe, and follow.